Spade Cooley. Spade Cooley was the king of Western swing, a genre that blended country music with big band jazz. His fame in the 1940s was unparalleled, with sold-out concerts and a popular television show that made him a household name. Yet beneath the polished cowboy image was a man whose temper and jealousy would lead to one of the most horrifying crimes in Hollywood history. Cooley's wife, Ella May, had reportedly been planning to leave him, a decision that enraged the musician. In a fit of uncontrollable anger, Cooley committed an act of violence that deeply disturbed those involved in the case. What many don't realize is that the incident occurred in the presence of their teenage daughter, who was forced to testify against her father in court. Cooley was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. Yet, in a bizarre twist, he was granted parole after serving less than a decade. Before his release, Cooley performed at a benefit concert where he suffered a fatal heart attack backstage. His story is a chilling reminder of how fame can mask the darkest of human impulses. The next figure, however, reveals a different kind of tragedy, one born not of rage, but of a single, deadly altercation. Paul Kelly. Paul Kelly was the quintessential leading man of the 1920s and 1930s, with rugged good looks and a commanding presence that made him a favorite on both stage and screen. Yet, his career took a shocking turn when he became embroiled in a deadly love triangle. Kelly was romantically involved with actress Dorothy McKay, who was married to fellow actor Ray Raymond. Tensions between the two men escalated until one fateful night when Kelly and Raymond became involved in a physical altercation. Raymond suffered injuries that tragically resulted in his passing, and Kelly was charged with manslaughter. What many don't know is that Kelly served 2 years in San Quentin prison, a sentence that could have ended his career. Instead, he emerged from incarceration and managed to rebuild his life in Hollywood, even winning a Tony Award years later. The most astonishing twist? Kelly eventually married Dorothy McKay, the widow of the man he was convicted of killing. Their union was a scandal in itself, but it also symbolized the strange, almost surreal nature of Hollywood's golden age. The next story delves into the life of a starlet whose downfall was tied to the darker underbelly of fame. Barbara Payton. Barbara Payton was the epitome of Hollywood glamour in the late 1940s and early 1950s. With her striking looks and undeniable talent, she seemed destined for stardom. Yet, her life became a tragic spiral of poor decisions and public scandals. Payton's downfall began with her tumultuous personal life, which was riddled with controversy. She became infamous for her highly publicized love triangle with actors Francho Tone and Tom Neal, a rivalry that ended in a violent altercation between the two men. What many don't know is that Payton's career was already on shaky ground due to her erratic behavior and struggles with substance use. In the mid-1950s, she was convicted of writing bad checks, a desperate act that highlighted her financial ruin. Her legal troubles didn't end there. She was later arrested for public intoxication and disorderly conduct, incidents that further tarnished her reputation. By the end of her life, Payton was living in poverty, a far cry from the glamorous starlet she had once been. Her story is a heartbreaking example of how fame can amplify personal struggles, leaving behind a legacy of both brilliance and tragedy. The next name on this list carries the weight of a famous family name, but his story is no less tragic. John Drew Barrymore. John Drew Barrymore was born into Hollywood royalty, the son of legendary actor John Barrymore and part of the illustrious Barrymore dynasty. With his striking features and undeniable talent, he seemed poised to carry on the family legacy. Yet, his life was marked by rebellion and self-destruction. Barrymore's career began promisingly in the 1950s, but his erratic behavior and legal troubles quickly overshadowed his talent. He was arrested multiple times for public drunkenness and reckless driving, incidents that painted him as a troubled figure, unable to escape his demons. What many don't realize is that Barrymore's struggles were deeply tied to the pressures of living up to his family's storied reputation. His legal troubles escalated when he was convicted of failing to pay child support, a charge that landed him in jail. Despite these setbacks, Barrymore continued to act sporadically, though his career never reached the heights of his father's. His story is one of unfulfilled potential, a cautionary tale of how even the brightest legacies can be dimmed by personal struggles. The next figure, however, faced accusations that were far more explosive, and his story remains one of the most controversial in Hollywood history. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling star of films like The Adventures of Robin Hood, was the epitome of Hollywood charisma in the 1930s and 1940s. Known for his devil-may-care attitude and rakish charm, Flynn was as famous for his off-screen exploits as he was for his on-screen heroics. Yet, in the early 1940s, his reputation took a serious hit when he was accused of misconduct involving two underage girls. The trial, which began in 1943, was one of the most sensational in Hollywood history. Flynn's defense team argued that the accusations were fabricated, and the actor himself maintained his innocence throughout the proceedings. What many don't realize is that Flynn's trial introduced the phrase "in like Flynn" into popular culture, a reference to his perceived ability to escape unscathed from scandal. Ultimately, Flynn was acquitted of all charges, but the trial left a permanent mark on his public image. Despite the controversy, Flynn's career continued to flourish, and he remained one of Hollywood's most bankable stars until his untimely death in the late 1950s. His story is a testament to the duality of fame, where charm and talent can coexist with controversy and scandal. The next name on this list, however, reveals a tale of redemption that is as surprising as it is compelling. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum, the brooding star of films like Out of the Past and The Night of the Hunter, was one of Hollywood's most enigmatic leading men. His deep voice and rugged good looks made him a favorite of audiences, but his off-screen life was just as intriguing as his on-screen persona. In 1948, Mitchum was arrested during a police raid for marijuana possession, an incident that could have ended his career. What many don't know is that Mitchum's arrest was one of the first high-profile drug scandals in Hollywood, setting a precedent for how the industry would handle such controversies in the future. Mitchum spent 60 days in jail, a sentence that was widely publicized and threatened to derail his career. Yet, in a surprising twist, the scandal only seemed to enhance his bad boy image, making him even more popular with audiences. Mitchum himself later joked about the incident, displaying a level of nonchalance that endeared him to fans. His ability to bounce back from the scandal was remarkable, and he went on to have a career that spanned decades, cementing his status as one of Hollywood's most enduring icons. The next figure, however, was no mere bystander in their scandal. They were directly involved in a crime that left Hollywood reeling. Walter Wanger. Walter Wanger, a celebrated producer behind films like Stagecoach and Cleopatra, was a man whose career was defined by his ability to take risks. Yet, in 1951, his personal life overshadowed his professional achievements when he became embroiled in one of Hollywood's most infamous scandals. Walter's suspicions about his wife, Joan Bennett, and her agent, Jennings Lang, led to a confrontation that escalated into violence. In a moment of impulsive fury, Walter shot Lang in a parking lot, claiming he believed Lang was ruining his marriage. What many don't know is that Walter's defense team argued that his actions were the result of temporary insanity, a strategy that helped him avoid a lengthy prison sentence. Instead, Walter served just 4 months in jail, a remarkably short punishment for such a high-profile case. The incident, however, left a permanent stain on his reputation. While Walter continued to work in Hollywood, his career never fully recovered from the scandal. The shooting also had a ripple effect on Joan Bennett's career, as the public's fascination with the case overshadowed her talent. Walter's story is a stark example of how personal and professional lives can collide with devastating consequences. The next name on this list, however, involves a star whose charm masked a life filled with controversy and tragedy. Mabel Normand. Mabel Normand was one of the brightest stars of the silent film era. a comedic genius who worked alongside legends like Charlie Chaplin and Roscoe "Fatty" Arbuckle. Yet, her career was marred by a series of scandals that tarnished her once gleaming reputation. In 1922, Norman's name became linked to the murder of director William Desmond Taylor, a case that remains unsolved to this day. While Norman was never formally charged, her close relationship with Taylor and her presence at his home shortly before his death made her a person of interest in the investigation. What many don't realize is that this wasn't the only controversy to plague Norman's life. In 1924, her chauffeur was involved in a violent altercation that resulted in the death of a millionaire oil broker. Although Norman was not directly involved, the incident further damaged her reputation. The press painted her as a figure surrounded by chaos and scandal, and her career began to decline. By the late 1920s, Normand had largely retired from acting, her health deteriorating due to tuberculosis. Her story is a tragic reminder of how quickly Hollywood can turn on its stars, especially when they become entangled in controversy. The next figure, however, was not just linked to a crime. They were accused of committing one of the most shocking acts in Hollywood history. Robert Blake. Robert Blake, best known for his role in the 1970s television series Beretta, was a child star who grew up in the spotlight. His career spanned decades, with memorable performances in films like In Cold Blood. Yet, in 2001, Blake's life took a dark turn when he was accused of being involved in the death of his wife, Bonnie Lee Backley. The case captivated the nation, with Blake maintaining his innocence and claiming that Backley had been targeted by someone else. What many don't know is that Blake's defense team argued that Backley's past, which included a history of cons and scams, made her a target for enemies unrelated to Blake. The trial, which began in 2004, was one of the most sensational in recent Hollywood history. Blake was ultimately acquitted of the charges, but his career and reputation were irreparably damaged. In a separate civil trial, however, he was found liable for Backley's death and ordered to pay millions in damages. Blake's story is a chilling example of how fame and fortune can unravel in the face of scandal. Ted Healy. Ted Healy was a man of contradictions, a comedic genius whose life was anything but funny. Known as the mastermind behind the original Three Stooges, Healy's career was a whirlwind of success and chaos. By the early 20th century, he had become a household name, his slapstick routines drawing laughter from audiences across the nation. Yet behind the scenes, his life was marred by controversy and tragedy. Few know that Healy's death in the late 1930s remains one of Hollywood's most enduring mysteries. Officially, it was ruled as complications from alcoholism, but whispers of foul play have lingered for decades. The night of his death, Healy was reportedly involved in a physical confrontation at a nightclub, with speculation surrounding the involvement of several high-profile figures, including a young actor who would later become a Hollywood legend. Even more unsettling is the fact that Healy's relationship with the Stooges was far from the camaraderie portrayed on screen. He was known for his volatile temper and alleged mistreatment of the group, leading to their eventual split. Some accounts suggest that Healy's erratic behavior was fueled by substance abuse, a common yet unspoken reality of the golden age of Hollywood. His untimely death, shrouded in secrecy and speculation, serves as a grim reminder of the hidden struggles behind the spotlight. The truth about what happened that fateful night may never be fully uncovered, but the shadow it casts over Healy's legacy is impossible to ignore. And yet, his story is just one thread in the tangled web of Hollywood's golden era, where glamour often masked a far more sinister reality. Wallace Beery. Wallace Beery was one of MGM's most bankable stars, a man whose on-screen persona exuded charm and affability. Off-screen, however, his life told a very different story. In the early 1930s, Beery was linked to one of Hollywood's most controversial scandals, a case that involved the unexplained death of a fellow actor. The young actor, who had a promising career, was reportedly involved in a physical dispute with Beery and two other men, an incident that remains shrouded in speculation. While the official cause of death was listed as a heart attack, rumors of foul play circulated widely, casting a dark shadow over Beery's reputation. What's even more disturbing is how quickly the studio moved to protect their star. MGM, eager to protect Beery's reputation, was rumored to have taken steps to ensure the incident did not escalate to legal proceedings. Beery was quietly sent on an extended vacation to Europe, a move that many believe was designed to keep him out of the public eye until the scandal subsided. Despite the whispers and accusations, Beery's career continued to flourish, a testament to the power of Hollywood's studio system to shield its stars from accountability. But Beery's troubling behavior didn't end there. Known for his abrasive personality, he was reportedly despised by many of his co-stars, including child actor Jackie Cooper, who later described Beery as cruel and manipulative. Behind the scenes, Beery's life was a far cry from the jovial characters he portrayed on screen. His story is a stark reminder of the lengths to which Hollywood would go to protect its own, even at the expense of justice. Yet his story pales in comparison to the next figure, whose life was a whirlwind of fame, scandal, and tragedy. Marie McDonald. Marie McDonald, often referred to as the Body for her stunning looks and curvaceous figure, was a starlet who seemed destined for greatness. Rising to fame in the 1940s, McDonald captivated audiences with her beauty and charisma, but her personal life was a storm of chaos and controversy. While her on-screen presence exuded glamour, her off-screen life was riddled with legal troubles and shocking accusations. McDonald's life took a dark turn in the mid-20th century when she was arrested multiple times for theft and fraud, crimes that seemed at odds with her public image as a Hollywood darling. One of the most bizarre incidents in McDonald's life occurred in the early 1950s when she claimed to have been abducted by two men. According to her account, she was taken from her home and held captive for several hours before being released. The story made headlines, but law enforcement officials were skeptical of her claims, with some suggesting that the incident may have been fabricated for publicity. The truth behind the alleged abduction remains a mystery, but it added another layer of intrigue to McDonald's already tumultuous life. McDonald's legal troubles didn't end there. She was later involved in a high-profile case of fraud, accused of writing bad checks and attempting to swindle money from acquaintances. These incidents tarnished her reputation and marked the beginning of her decline in Hollywood. Despite her beauty and talent, McDonald's life was a cautionary tale of how fame and fortune could quickly unravel. Her story, filled with twists and turns, is a stark reminder of the fragility of stardom. Frances Farmer. Frances Farmer was the epitome of Hollywood's tragic starlet, a woman whose talent and beauty were overshadowed by a life of turmoil and controversy. Rising to fame in the 1930s, Farmer captivated audiences with her raw performances and striking presence. Yet, her defiance of Hollywood norms and refusal to conform to the studio system made her a target of both the press and the industry. What many don't know is that Farmer's life spiraled into a series of legal troubles that culminated in her being arrested multiple times, with one of the most infamous incidents occurring in the early 1940s. Farmer was arrested for driving under the influence and disorderly conduct, but it was her behavior during her court appearances that shocked the public. She reportedly became combative during her court appearances, which resulted in her being taken into custody and later sent to a psychiatric institution. This marked the beginning of a dark chapter in her life, as she underwent treatments that were considered unconventional even for the time. While the official records state that these measures were intended to address her mental health struggles, many have since questioned whether they were a form of punishment for her rebellious nature and refusal to conform to societal expectations. Even more unsettling is the fact that Farmer's institutionalization effectively ended her career, as the studios distanced themselves from her in the wake of the scandal. Her story is a chilling reminder of how Hollywood's golden age often punished those who refused to play by its rules. Farmer's Life, filled with both brilliance and tragedy, remains one of the most haunting tales of the era. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment. Also, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get notified of our newest videos. Thanks for watching.